like
calm
that.
down. But can I address something that the bald guy that just left said a few minutes ago?
Yes.
This thing about black women voting, Democratic and all this kind of stuff. You did, Hamp, say that black men vote at an 86% clip, Democratic, right?
Yeah, he said it, and I agree. That is
Right.
true. Yeah.
It's a little bit higher than that. But
Okay.
the fact that he wants to use that to make some delineation between black men and black women, when black women are simply following black men, their pastors are telling them to vote this way, and the men that they are with. The majority of black men are Democrats, just like the majority of black women, right? So why are we making this argument that black women are doing something so far off when he just says that they don't follow men? They followed men all the way to the Democratic polls. Second, the gentleman that's up here making the comparison that an adult man who took sexual advantage of children is equivalent to YNs in the street carrying guns and unaliving each other is asinine. And it just goes to paint the broader picture of why BWE became and why it became toxic. In this space, before I don't know any of these people that came around, but when I came around, they were celebrating DJ Pope. Okay, there were whole panels, and some of them are on this panel where they were making light of it and basically lauding him as the GOAT. Okay, they were literally celebrating what he did. They were celebrating black women being beaten. They were celebrating any failure of black women, anything detrimental to black women. These men celebrated and laughed at, especially when it came to sexual assault, femicide, and back up. The guy brought up infanticide. That's illegal. Black women who commit that crime go to jail. So I'm assuming he's talking about abortion, right? What is he talking about?
Women who harm their living children.
Right. So you cannot even, and those women need to go to jail. Typically they do. Okay, we don't celebrate them and try to excuse them and psychologically rationalize their behavior like you all do when these men are doing, and we don't dismiss it. Femicide is something that happens way more often than infanticide. And I'm not diminishing that at all, but the fact that nobody wants to have that conversation while saying that you care about the black community with the DV rates in the black community, with all of this stuff that these men support. These men were on panels supporting women getting slapped in their mouths. Okay, age of consent. They didn't care about that because that's how we got the passport bros. That's how we got SYBSM. And anything that you try to instill morality in with this man, or any sort of conjecture that was in support of black families, they diminished. They find a way around it. And then how do men act like they don't control marriage? This man was up here, the bald guy, acting like black men have a culture of marriage. No, some black men marry, but that's only like 30%. So why are we blaming it?
Question. So I understand that it's kind of reiterating, but you brought more clarity as well, right? So you're saying BWE, well, Taz said this, I just want to ask you, BWE was in response to all this negativity? So BWE, I'm thinking the acronym has a positive connotation, but if it's in response to negativity, right, and it's a retort, was it ever meant to be like actual black women empowerment, or was it meant to be kind of a response to the negativity that was being spewed?
So it absolutely is an acronym for Black women's empowerment. Okay. So let me just give you an example how this kind of popped off.
Okay.
Black men, as you know, marry and date out at a clip that's larger. They only rival Asian women with dating and marrying out, right? They were openly saying that black women were not good enough. They were openly saying that white women gave birth to better black children. They were openly saying that we were devalued. We've all heard the Tommy Sotomayor, black women are only worth $5 and all this kind of stuff. So they were openly devaluing the women, tearing at their self-esteem, and telling women that were in their 20s and 30s that this was a response to shows in the 80s, to Oprah, or whatever Lifetime movie network these guys like to watch and talk about and cry about. So all of that happening, women developed spaces specifically for women. And because the men are so obsessed with women's behaviors and what they're doing and have an issue with them being empowered on any level, they invaded those spaces to come in and just basically tell them that, y'all are wrong, y'all are divestors, whatever they said, but it was an answer to what the men were doing. Okay. Now I will say that some of the women were very toxic. There were times when I was toxic. So
Now,
how it happened?
Quick interjection. Majority or minority would you say were toxic? And then you can continue your
Okay, let me ask you this question though, because I want to answer it right.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that there's sometimes you have to fight toxicity sometimes with toxicity? Would you agree?
I agree that you have to fight fire with fire. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my response. That's my response to that.
So we say majority then?
I would say the majority of the women did not start off like that. So I'll give you an example of myself. When I came into the space, majority of my content was politically based. Okay. It was in support of Black men. It was in support of Black women and support of Black families, which is something that I still support. Okay. When I came into the space, the women did not like me very much because they were like, oh, you don't understand these men. They're this. You can't be doing this content supporting these men and all of this kind of stuff. And I got attacked for having a Black husband and having an experience with my father and my husband and my family that was completely different from a lot of the women that were talking. So because I was limited by my experiences, I defended Black men, thinking that they were very similar to the men that I had grown up around. But as you get in the space and you get on the panel with the men, you start.
So I have a question. Two questions, right? I just want to make sure we get the answer. So the let's say the voices that matter most, right? Would the majority of those voices be considered toxic or negative?
I think they would. I think anything that was in disagreement with the Black manosphere was considered toxic. So
from your purview, based on like when you first came,
most of it was necessary. At least my side of the fence was necessary, in my opinion.
Okay, and then do you think that it did you a disservice when they kind of changed your ideology? Do you think that helped you, or maybe stifled you?
No, I think it helped. Okay, so let me explain.
Yeah,
even Cynthia was in support of Black men, right? We all supported Black men. We all supported the first panel that she got on my channel. The first thing out of her mouth is I love Black men, right? So ask yourself, why did that change so drastically over a 2-year period? Well, who's doxing her? Black men. Who's threatening her? Black men. Who's distorting her image everywhere? Black men, right? And this at this stage, she was just simply saying, hey, fight back. Fight back. You're talking about white supremacy every day. Fight back. That's all she was saying. And because she was saying that.
Okay. So Nyla, I think just to summarize, right, that, and let me know if I'm missing, but it's you're just saying that this is indeed a response that was necessary because of because of the bullets that were fired. And the women that initially came in with a positive outlook on Black men learned quickly based on getting all this information that that wasn't quite true. It was just the men around them.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Damn, it was a lot too. I done forgot what I said.
Just the last few seconds you said something.
Like, because it just, I guess it's slightly. So when I heard it, Nyla, I'm saying feel, right? I'm saying feel. It felt like it was disheartening to me that you had this positive outlook when you came, and then when you got here, it flipped.
Well, it was disheartening to me because I invalidated so many women in the beginning. I'm like, well, you just need to pick better. I was saying that stupid shit. You just need to pick better until I understood the statistics. And until I started looking at the FBI reports, until I started looking at marriage rates, until I started listening to the behaviors of these men, I invalidated so many women. And so once, even though it was not my personal experience, the domestic violence, the SA from the parents and stuff like that. Yeah. So now,
Nyla, take this walk with me, right? What you just said, that last sentence resonates with me so much. Because overwhelmingly, the brothers that are in the manosphere that I know or talk to, they say that exact same thing. They're saying, hey, I'm not going through this necessarily. However, I'm speaking up, speaking out for the men that are experiencing these negative, in society. So that's actually interesting that you said that, because they say that a whole lot too.
So I don't doubt that. Okay, to ignore that there are
I've got a question for you, Nyla, after you answer this, FYI. I think. Go ahead.
No problem. I don't want to deny that there are trash women. There are absolutely trash women out there. But to equate a woman being trash that you could have just moved on from, to all women are bad because they have the children that the men that black men abandon are bad, and it's their fault, and they're worthless, and they're worth $5. That's not the same. That's not the same, especially when you start talking about real topics. The leading cause of death of a pregnant black woman is what?
I don't know.
Homicide.
90%. Black men. Homicide. Fantastic. You remember that smoke you ain't want? Remember?
Hold on,
I ain't got a chance to talk yet, bro.
Hold on, Miss Fidel. Hold on.
I'm just reminding you, like I was trying to tell that old man, y'all didn't do that content.
Come on, Ty.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just saying, bro. Like,
no, but I'm getting this edification. So I'm being selfish. I want to make sure I get it. So, Nyla, that there's more black women per year being killed by black men than black women are dying on like the birthing table.
So absolutely. So when it comes to femicide, right?
Uh-huh.
I think it's every 4.8. I may be mistaken, but I feel I heard that the new numbers was 4.8. Every 4.8, even though they literally acted like that was not a thing. This is the FBI stats. So you know what I'm saying? They don't like to hear it. So 96% of the time, those murders are carried out by black men. Now, everybody likes to say, well, that's proximity. White men are the biggest, unalivers of white women. Yes. But when you look at the population size, black women are what they outnumber us something by like 20 million or something like that. But we have we are killed at higher rates. You see what I'm saying? And so they don't like to talk about, I'm breaking up.
No, like per capita, essentially, right?
Yeah, the per capita. They don't like to deal with per capita at all. With the leading cause of pregnant black women being homicide, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about any of that. They like to deal with, because the raw data doesn't tell the whole story. And then when you're talking about something as specific as femicide, especially when you're dealing with pregnant women, how dare you get mad because women are opting out of having the children that you said that they were not supposed to have anyway, that if they raise, they're going to be messed up because you raised them. And not only do I have a high chance of dying on the table having the baby, but I also have the leading cause of death for me being pregnant would be homicide. But they don't want to deal with that. They want to talk about somebody cheated on them. They want to talk about weave. They want to talk about lashes. They want to talk about black women listen to Meg Thee Stallion. These men are incapable of having the hard discussions unless it's something as remedial as what we heard on this panel. And I mean, it's a game to them. Just like when Taz brought out the conversation about Jason Pope, fantastic. All of them diminished it. Okay, it was a joke to them. It was bullshit to them. They did not care. Okay. But what they talk about ad nauseum is weave, child support.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now